people kisses. Mwah. Good girl. Hello my darlings, so this is part 2 of my labor and delivery stories. The first one I did on Colt, he is my oldest son, and the second one is going to be on little Lennon here. She is our second born and the first girl. If you haven't already watched part 1 with Colt, I will link it in the description below, so if you want to watch that one first. You just see the cutest little baby sigh. Lennon was due, I believe, on the 20th. My 40-week appointment, my OB said, if you really want to have this baby, she's like, go to triage and tell them that you're either you haven't felt the baby move, or that you feel like you're having contractions. She's like, just make up an excuse and go, and I will just induce you, it'll be fine. And so I was like, okay. She was gonna be there a certain day, and she's like, if you haven't gone into labor by then, just go in on that day that I'm gonna be at the hospital. So we went in Wednesday the 23rd of December. We went in kind of late. I wanna say we went in around maybe 8 o'clock. 8 o'clock at night. This time I was gonna have my sister come in if she wanted to watch Lennon being born, since my mom already got a turn the first time. I was like, it'll probably take a while, I'll let you know when I get close. We got my IV in, and then we got sent up to triage, and then they started me on Pitocin. And again, I needed to get the epidural soon, so that just in case, I asked for like when I kind of started to feel contractions, just in case he had to step out and like be gone for a while and it was gonna take him a while to get to me. He got to me actually rather fast, and the anesthesiologist I got this second time around was not as good as the first guy. I don't know like why. I was kind of nervous about getting my epidural for some reason, even though I knew the first time it went so smoothly and like it was no problem at all. Just this time I was a little nervous. I don't know. There was just something, maybe I was just foreshadowing that I knew this epidural was about to be a disaster. So, I'm contracting a lot at this point. I'm just having a lot of contractions. The Pitocin kicked in pretty fast and it started kind of doing its job. So I'm having contractions, and he's trying to get the needle to go in and then I'm having a contraction, and it's just like a hot mess because he can't get it in while I'm having a contraction because I like straighten up, and it's just really painful. And so I'm trying to have Cody hold my hand because I'm in a lot of pain as he's trying to put this epidural in, because he's putting it in pretty slow, and then also I'm having contractions. And it's just terrible. And so finally he's like, can you let go of your husband's hand? I just need you to like bend over a little more and hold onto a chair in front of you. And I was like, okay. And I like hated letting go of Cody's hand because I was in a lot of pain, and I was like, the only thing that was comforting me was like holding his hand. He tries to go in again, and I'm like, ow, that really, really hurts. Like, ow, ow, ow. He's like, oh, I'm probably scraping your spine. I'm sorry. I was like, oh my gosh. I was like, this is not okay. I was like, this hurts so bad. And so he kept bumping like my spine, so that's why it was causing, like, hurting really bad. And it just took forever to get the epidural in, and so we finally got it in. And then I was able to relax a little bit after that, but that whole epidural process was a nightmare. It just was so bad. Afterwards, it started kicking in. By this time, it was probably midnight by the time this was happening. Yeah, probably about midnight. I kept texting my sister, I don't want you to come like now, since like Colt's labor took like forever, and I don't think it's gonna go that fast, so I'll just let you know when I get to a certain like centimeters like dilated. I'll let you know. She's like, okay. So I fell asleep for a little bit with the epidural in. I probably had it for about an hour or so. They started worrying about Lennon's heart rate. Her heart rate kept dropping whenever I was having contractions. I had a different OB this time, Dr. Kroger, and she kept popping in and out of my room throughout me being there, and I kind of saw more of her than I did like my first OB. She was like, this baby's heart rate is really worrying me. It keeps drastically dropping every time you have a contraction. She probably stood in my room for a good hour or so, maybe a little less, but she was there for quite a while just staring at my at the baby's heart rate and just watching it. By then they had to turn it off. I couldn't have it on because they thought that maybe the epidural was affecting her heart rate. They had me turn it off, and like again, my body burned stuff off like super fast. So it burned off pretty quickly because I didn't even have it in very long to begin with. They're getting closer together and more frequent, almost becoming constant, and I'm getting closer and closer. I told my sister finally around maybe 4 a.m., 4-ish, maybe 3. I was texting her like, hey, maybe you should come and maybe you should start heading to the hospital. A while to get a hold of her because she was asleep too. I was like, you should come to the hospital. It's starting to get a little more serious. And she was like, okay. I'm dilating pretty quickly, but this nurse came in and was like, oh, I know what's gonna get your baby out super fast. She's like, you're gonna lie in this position and I guarantee you your baby's gonna come out so fast. And I was like, okay, like that's weird. I've never heard, like, since nobody like said that with my first baby, I was like, or since my first baby took forever to come out, I was like, okay, lady, sure. She was like, okay, so what I'm gonna have you do is I'm gonna have you lay on your side. So I laid on my left side, and she went and got the little trays that go over the beds that are like this, and they can like lower or go up high. And so she lowered it so where it was like almost directly like over my bed like this. She had me lay on my side and then put my leg on top of that tray, and she was like, just lay like that and your baby will come out in no time. And so I was like, okay, sure. Like, we'll see. And within probably about 15 minutes, I was like, wow, I'm feeling like a lot of pressure. And they were saying like, oh, when you start feeling like you need to push, like call a nurse in and we'll have you start pushing. I was like, it's been 15 minutes, like laying like this. Like, I feel like, I was like, Cody, I feel like I need to push. There's a lot of pressure. Have him call the nurse, and then that same nurse comes in and she's like, you're pretty much dilated to a 9 now. And I had been like a 7 or so. I like jumped so far in like 15 minutes. She's like, see, I told you, this is what you have to do to get a baby out. And I was like, oh my gosh, like who knew? She had me keep laying like that. She's like, okay, we're gonna go call the doctor. You're probably gonna need to push soon. Sure enough, like the doctor comes back in, and this is all happening super quick, and I can't keep my epidural because the baby's heart rate is still like dropping. So the doctor had left and had to go check on another patient. The doctor said, I think what's happening is she's either squeezing the umbilical cord or it's wrapped around her neck. So when you're delivering the baby, I'm prepared to unwrap the cord around your baby's neck. And so I was like, okay, like, all right, like I just gotta be calm and just deliver this baby. So my sister's like on her way, like almost there. And so when she showed up was right when I was like starting to push Lennon out, and all of the nurses were having to come in, and it got really chaotic. And so she actually wasn't able to come into the room. She like missed it by just like a hair, like being able to come into the room. I'm pushing for about 10 minutes. And so I'm like, how's it looking? Like, how long do you think I'm gonna need to push? Because I needed to mentally prepare myself for another 3-hour pushing session. And so it'd been probably about like 10 or so minutes. And she's like, oh no, you're like almost there. Like maybe 1 or 2 pushes and this baby's gonna be out. And I was like, what? Are you serious? And I was like, okay, let's go. I don't need a break. And so after 2 more pushes, little Lennon came out. I instantly, as soon as she came out, I was like, she's lighter than Colt. I can already feel it. Like, she felt like a little bird coming out. She was so small. When she came out, the umbilical cord wasn't wrapped around her neck. She was actually fine. They have no idea still why her heart rate kept dropping, but she was born healthy and she was completely okay when she came out. Since there wasn't anything to like check her right away, Cody was able to cut her umbilical cord, so he cleaned her up and her APGAR score was nearly perfect. And then they brought her right over to me, and we got to start skin to skin, and she was just so cute and so precious. What? Crazy. Yeah. Ba ba ba. And after she came out, I like started crying again because I was so happy. I don't know, I'm always an emotional mess after I have my babies. And so then they let my sister in. She's like, I'm so sorry I missed it. And I was like, no, it's okay. She like just missed it by just a hair, but at least she didn't have to wait there too long before she could come in. And then we texted my mom like, oh, you should come over too. And she brought donuts. I mean, I think my mom brought donuts for the nurses. Because we always like to give our nurses like something after all of that. They're just such troopers. Like the hospital I go to has really great labor and delivery nurses. So Lennon was born at 4:53 a.m. on Christmas Eve. We waited a little while to go to our next room because they wanted to give me some time to rest before I transferred to another room. So I fell asleep and with little Lennon, and she was in the room with me in a little bassinet, and so I was able to fall asleep for a little bit, and I woke up around 6 a.m. and my phone was just absolutely going crazy, and it was just vibrating and ringing. I think I had texted a couple people, and maybe on Facebook I think I was like, oh, being induced, the little Lennon's gonna be here soon. Cody was like, oh my god, your phone has been going crazy. While I was in labor and and I had my epidural in for about like that hour, I decided to listen to the Hamilton soundtrack because I was obsessed with it. I'm still obsessed with that soundtrack, but even it was my new obsession with the soundtrack. And so I had tweeted at Lin-Manuel Miranda that I was listening to the soundtrack and I'm in labor right now, and that your soundtrack was like relaxing me or something like that. Didn't see that he had tweeted back at me, congratulations, stay away from part 2 of the soundtrack, which if you haven't seen the musical, I'm not going to spoil it, but there was a reason why I probably should have stayed away from part 2. But I didn't make it to part 2 because after that like hour or so, like things kind of started getting a little bit more serious. As I had fallen asleep, I guess he had tweeted at me, and then I had hundreds of random strangers just congratulating me on my baby. And like, oh, what are you gonna name your baby? Are you naming your baby after like a Hamilton character? And so I woke up and Cody's like, your Twitter notifications are going nuts. Like, oh my gosh, Cody, I was like, Lin-Manuel tweeted at me while I was sleeping. And oh my gosh, all these people are congratulating me about the baby. And I was like, oh my gosh, how exciting. And so that was definitely an exciting thing about her labor and delivery, was that the Lin-Manuel Miranda tweeted at my little baby. We finally made it over to our room after labor and delivery. They brought Colt. My in-laws brought Colt in to meet his baby sister, and he wasn't like super jealous about like me holding a baby. He did really well, and he was really excited to see her. Doctors were coming in and we're like, everything looks good, like we want to get you guys out of here as soon as we possibly can because tomorrow's Christmas and we want you guys to just be home. Like there's no reason why you should be here any longer. And so early Christmas morning, it was probably about 5, 6 a.m. when I had a doctor come in and check me, and he's like, well, you're looking good. Do you want to go home like today? And I was like, yes, please. I was like, yes, please get me out of here. We ended up getting discharged, I want to say around 12 o'clock or 1 o'clock in the afternoon on Christmas. So Cody's sister's boyfriend was planning on proposing on Christmas, and so he told me like a day or so before I went in to be induced that he was planning on proposing. He's like, I'm gonna propose on Christmas. I don't want you guys to miss it. But if you do, he's like, I'm just letting you know. And so I was like, I don't care that I just had a baby. Like, I want to go watch her get engaged. And proposed, and it was super cute. And so we had 2 new things on Christmas. We had a new baby, and my sister-in-law had a new ring. So that was also really exciting. That happened after Lennon was born. Now let's hope that my next labor and delivery with the twins goes smoothly as well. And it goes fast like Lennon's and doesn't drag on like Colt's. Thank you guys for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Thanks guys. Bye. Say bye. Bye. Oh, she's going everywhere. You're such a big baby. You're not even my little baby. Look how big you are.